Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited and so honored to be your guest. My name is Rachel Muir. I am CFRE and Vice President of Training at Pursuant, and I'm thrilled to get to talk with you guys today about a very important and very lucrative opportunity around mid-level donors. This is my headshot, my mugshot, and a little bit more about me. My background is in the nonprofit sector, just like you. I actually got my start starting a nonprofit organization to empower girls in math, science, engineering, and technology. When I was just 26 years old, I started Girl Start in the living room of my apartment with $500 and a credit card because I wanted to change the world for girls. I looked around and I didn't see girls being encouraged in those subjects. I'm sure many of you are working on that very topic at your clubs, and I wanted to do something to address it. I ran Girl Start for 12 years. We raised over $10 million and were featured on Oprah and CNN and the Today Show, and I got to learn everything I know about fundraising in the trenches, doing face-to-face asks. So I know where you're coming from, and I really believe that there is no profession more meaningful or more honorable or more important than fundraising, getting to be with another human being, getting to bring them opportunities to make the world a better place. I genuinely feel there's no better job in the world. And I have the best job in the world because I get to train people to be better fundraisers. I do custom training and classroom training, and you're going to see a little bit more about that. And it's an honor and a privilege to get to help fundraisers up their game. And I'm excited and I'm honored to be with you today. You have an amazing lineup in this series that's been organized, and you've got some really talented presenters speaking on some really important topics. So I'm excited and honored to be in such great company. This is my Twitter handle down here at Rachel Muir, and that's my email address. If you've got any follow-up questions or need anything, you're going to be receiving all the handouts. You can download them from the control panel right here in GoToWebinar, and you're going to get an email with all of them as well as all of the links. And right before Heather and I kicked this off, I put in many of the links into the chat box so you can see those there. I want to invite you guys, a little housekeeping item. Please feel free to type in your questions at any time today. I definitely have time at the end of today's session to handle your questions, but I want to welcome you to type in your questions at any time today, and I will do my best to answer them as we go along. This is a little bit about the company that I work for, Pursuant. Pursuant works with organizations doing email campaigns and direct mail campaigns, as well as capital campaigns and major gift campaigns. And what we're going to be talking about today is that sweet spot in the middle of mid-level donors. And that's something that we, as a company, have done a lot of research on and have some unique approaches that I'm excited to share with you guys today. So again, this is a little bit more about me. I do custom training, I do VIP days, webinars, live classes, all on fundraising, including how to get your board to fundraise, but all on fundraising. And there's a link down there to my Calendly link if you're interested in booking some time with me. And again, there's my Twitter handle. You're going to see links in here to the my Twitter handle and to where you can find out more information about me, including my website and things that I have coming up. And speaking of that, this is one thing. Here's my website right here. RachelMuir.com, and this is where you can learn more about me. You can even see a video of me speaking. You can learn more about the training that I do and even see some sample trainings and some sample topics. I've got a Facebook page that's down there at the bottom, / Rachel Muir Fundraising, and I do a lot of webinars. I love doing webinars, and I do a lot of free webinars. So if you can actually sign up at RachelMuir.com, and when I have a free webinar coming up, I will send you an email so that you can sign up and register for that free webinar automatically. So if you're interested, if you like what you hear today and you want to continue the conversation, or you want to get invited to some upcoming free webinars, or just learn more, I also have a lot of free guides here on this website, guides for doing great discovery, guides for getting your board to fundraise. Those are all under resources. So please feel free to use this as a treasure trove of insights and information and further learning for you. I welcome you to sign up and to find whatever is useful or helpful to you. I have a webinar series that's going to be coming up. It's actually this is a page for it, and if you're interested in signing up, this is a link that you can use to get $50 off. So this starts in January, and this is a 4-part series on everything you need to be successful as a fundraiser. So if you like today and you want to do more and you want to do it in a webinar series, this is coming up in January. It runs every week in January and starts mid-January and runs through mid-February. I'd love to have you join me. So again, please feel free to type in questions anytime. I'm going to do my best to handle your questions as they come in, and I've also got time at the end of today. So here's what we're going to be talking about, friends. We're going to talk about some epic insights on mid-level donors. I'm going to talk with you about the myth of mid-level donors. I'm going to talk with you about some barriers to mid-level programs and how you can launch your own mid-level program. I'm going to talk about finding and upgrading mid-level donors. I'm going to give you lots of tips and lots of tools you can use right now that you can put to work immediately. I've got tips and tools for sophisticated organizations that want to take a dip and use some really efficient digital tools. And I've also got tips and tools for you if you have absolutely no budget whatsoever and you're really bootstrapping this and looking for how you can put some things in place with absolutely no cost. And of course, I've got time at the end for questions, but please, again, feel free at any time to type in any of the questions that you have, and I will do my best to answer your questions. I'm going to be monitoring the questions box, so I'm going to do my best to answer questions as we go. Now, the first thing that I want to learn is a little bit more about you guys. I want to know if you right now are doing a mid-level program. So this is just a simple poll. This is just a simple like yes or no, and Heather's going to open up the poll and launch that. So I want to invite you guys to vote and let me know if you've got a mid-level program, just yes or no. I'm still taking votes. It looks like most people don't have one, which is great because you're going to learn a lot of tips and a lot of insights to get one started. I even have some of those like starting ground level zero. What do I need to think about if I want to start a mid-level program? But yeah, it looks like right now, 73% of you guys do not have a mid-level program. Only 27% of you said yes. So if you've got one, you're in good hands. You're going to learn some skills today to enhance that program. If you don't have one, you are going to learn what to think about when setting one up and what are efficient ways to launch one and manage one moving forward. So this is a question for the 27% of you who have a mid-level program. And I guess I should just take a step back right now and just say a mid-level program or mid-level donor is somewhere in between your annual fund, your smallest donors, and your major gift donors. Every organization defines a mid-level gift with their own dollar amount and their own definitions, just the same way you would a major gift. So if that's helpful to you guys. So this question is really for the people who have one. And I'm curious to ask you, what trigger do you use that determines whether someone goes into your mid-level program? Now, it's tempting to say more than one of these, but what is the primary? I'd rather you guys tell me what is the primary thing that you are relying on to determine whether someone goes into your mid-level program. So of that small percentage of you guys that actually has a mid-level program, what determines whether someone is a mid-level donor to you? It's easy to say more one of these, but what is the primary thing that's driving it? So it looks like we still have some room for people to vote, but it looks like for the vast majority of you, most of you, not surprisingly, are using more than one of these, but it looks like 33% of you guys are looking at cumulative giving and 17% a single gift. So I'm excited to hear that, not surprised that it's more than one item. I'm excited to hear cumulative giving because it shows me that you're looking at your donors' retention and your donors' longevity. So these are all different triggers that someone might use to determine who lands in a mid-level gift portfolio. So I mentioned just a second ago the difference between a major gift and mid-level gift. If you go to a fundraising conference, and I have the honor and the privilege to frequently get to present at fundraising conferences, I had the honor to present at your national convention earlier this year in New Orleans. I'm excited to see you guys out in Dallas next year for your convention. But when you go to these fundraising conferences, you often see this perfect isosceles triangle. And this is really presented as like, here's fundraising. You've got your general fund or your annual fund, you've got mid-level gifts, and then you've got major gifts. And every now and then you might see this like cherry on the top of plan gifts, way up there at the top over major gifts. And the truth is, we see this so often, I think we're kind of lulled into actually believing that your file looks like this, that this is how fundraising looks, and that this is what a healthy organization that has equal amounts almost, but smaller amounts of mid-level gifts and smaller amounts of major gifts, but that this proportionately is somewhat representative of a donor file. And I have a truth bomb for all of us. The reality is it doesn't look anything like that perfect isosceles triangle that you saw earlier. The reality of fundraising and most people's files is that it looks far more like a sombrero. Most people have a lot of donors giving small amounts down here at the bottom, and just a few donors giving major gifts up at the top. And the reality of this is that this looks this way not because of our donors' wishes, not because of our donors' desires. It looks like a sombrero because of our own behavior towards our donors, sorry, plural. The reality is you have many donors that are giving small amounts who could be giving mid-level gifts to you right now. But it takes something to pluck them out of just giving at end of year. It takes some level of motivation and personalization to really drive and change their behavior. So you have an opportunity here, and this is really significant for us as fundraisers and for our future of fundraising, because this is where our major gifts are. But you're probably wondering, like, okay, she's got Jan Brady here. What's up with this Jan Brady photo? Remember how Jan Brady, she was that forgotten middle child. It was always Marsha, Marsha, Marsha who got all the attention, and she was vocal about that. Mid-level donors are a lot like the middle child. They're prone to neglect. Mid-level donors are 1% of donors, but they represent 1/3 of all giving. And they're kind of lost in this chasm between major gifts and just like the discipline of direct mail, of direct response. They're not as exciting as this $1 million prospect that you've got. And they're also not as intuitive and perhaps as obvious as acquisition. So there's somewhere in between. And this is important for us because this is a real missed opportunity. These mid-level donors are your pipeline, and they are your future for major gifts. When organizations consistently across the board at Pursuant, what we see is that when organizations have a strong direct response or general fund program, we see over half of those major donors start out at the bottom with an annual fund and move their way up. And so this is your pipeline for major gifts for tomorrow. It's also a dramatic pipeline for plan gifts and a huge opportunity with plan gifts. So this is a few reasons why mid-level donors are so significant and represent such a great opportunity. So I'm going to talk to you about some research that we've done at Pursuant and some things that we learned about mid-level donors that might surprise you. So one of the first things that we learned about mid-level donors is that they look like low-level donors. And that's important because you need to profile them and learn more about them. We often also see mid-level donors who may not have donated before to the organization. They may not have been invited to in the right way. They may have been overlooked as a donor group. I was just talking to an organization today, and they have not asked their alumni, and that might be true for many of you. And you may not have that information as well. They will give on the first ask. Keep in mind, a mid-level gift, it is a gift that's made from disposable income. It isn't a major gift. So this is a gift that could be made on the spot. Oftentimes, mid-level gifts are split up into pledges. They may be split up into a pledge over a couple years or 3 years or monthly payments. But this is something that people can make a decision on the spot. That you have to have a level of personalization to bring someone out of the general fund and give them the kind of love and intention and desire and personalization to really be able to move them up to a mid-level gift. And as I mentioned earlier, these folks are your future major donors, and this is what represents such a great untapped opportunity for many of us that are joining us today. So this is a little more about what represents a mid-level gift and some ideas around how other organizations are deciding what is a mid-level gift. Like how do we define a mid-level gift? So it could be the duration of the gift. Maybe it's a particular dollar amount of a single contribution or cumulative. Many of you typed in that your primary trigger for a mid-level gift is the cumulative amount of the gift. It could be that it's pledged. It could be that it's a sustainer gift. It could be the type of the gift. In your mid-level program, you might designate certain types of gift constitute mid-level gifts, and you want to treat those gifts differently, and you want to nurture those donors differently, and maybe that means it's a planned gift, or maybe that means that it's a stock gift, or maybe it means that the person did an individual gift and then they went above and beyond by getting their company to match their gift. Those are all triggers that this person could respond to more care and feeding, more personalization, and have a deeper relationship with your organization. It could be the nature of the gift. Maybe if it's unsolicited, that triggers is considered a mid-level gift. If it's a gift that, they weren't on your file, they found you, made an unsolicited gift, or if it is restricted or conversely unrestricted. So those are just some different ways that people might have predetermined what constitutes a mid-level gift for them. I mentioned this earlier with Jan Brady from the Brady Bunch, which was, by the way, a staple in my TV diet as a child. The reason why mid-level gifts can get overlooked is, as I said earlier, they don't have the rigor and the discipline and the intuitiveness of direct mail and direct response. And they don't have that cachet of being major donors. They're somewhat in between these two extremes, and they're kind of like their own hybrid, their own kind of special mix, right? Just like this duck slash turtle. It's mid-level programs that are successful are combining a little bit of the direct response and the direct mail and a little bit of the major donors, because they're giving the donors in that file the custom experience of major gifts, and they're also applying that discipline and study and scale of direct response, because this is a larger file and this is a more frequent drumbeat of communication. It doesn't have that same frequent, 2 to 3 visits before an ask level of engagement that major gifts has, but it has more personalization and it has more engagement than just your direct response direct mail program. So it's kind of a hybrid of these two different worlds. So if you are new to mid-level gifts and you're looking at launching a program, you're going to really enjoy this next part of our conversation today. I'm going to talk with you guys just a little bit about launching a mid-level program. And I've got the question box open, so I want to invite you guys, please feel free if you've got questions about any of this that are coming up. I specifically have blocked away time for us to go through these and talk about some of these questions. So I want to encourage you and have you guys feel free to type in questions at any time. So please feel free to type in any of your questions into the questions box, and I will make sure and get it answered. So this is some good kind of things of what you need to start a mid-level program within your organization. You obviously need leadership support, and that's going to give you the staff, it's going to give you the budget, it's going to give you the resources. You need to have your internal teams bought into it, right? This is one of the challenges that I consistently see why organizations don't have mid-level programs, or when they have them and they start them and they're successful and then they get put on pause or get absorbed by either the major gifts program or major gifts and direct mail. Everyone has to be bought in. And when it comes to mid-level programs, there can likely be the most infighting with mid-level programs because it's different than direct response and it's different than major gifts. And it requires more care, more feeding, more attention than your direct mail response program. But these people, there's a larger portfolio of donors and not as many face-to-face visits as your major gifts do. And so a lot of times I see organizations that have pit and type in, just let me know if this is you. A lot of organizations struggle, especially larger organizations, where different groups feel like they're competing for donors. They're fighting for donors. Direct response wants to take credit for a gift that came in that the major gift department wants to take credit for. And maybe the organization wants to start a mid-level program, but maybe the major gift officers want to have those donors and add to their portfolio. So if you've got some turf wars, that's normal, that happens. And the best way to avoid that is get your internal team's buy-in when you start a program like this and reward and incentivize each team to have credit for the donor and come at it from the angle of what is going to ensure the best possible experience for the donor, because at the end of the day, that's what you want. A lot of times in mid-level programs, there can be, especially when there's a desire to put mid-level donors in a major gift portfolio, but if there's already a really big major gift portfolio, that major gift officer doesn't have time to give those mid-level donors much care and feeding and attention, and those mid-level donors kind of drop off the radar. And sometimes they drop off the radar because they might have been suppressed from direct mail or direct response because some of the major gift officers thought, oh, I'm going to have face-to-face visits. They thought kind of ambitiously that they were going to have a lot of face-to-face visits that never ended happening. So it's important to be thoughtful about getting everyone's team's buy-in and how you are going to incentivize and structure this to the greatest experience of the donor so that you don't have teams internally fighting with each other. You're going to need a staff person to lead it. This could be outsourced, this could be half-time, this could be a full-time person. I've seen some organizations where they were struggled to have the resources and they had a staff person assigned to their mid-level program who was newer to fundraising, and this was an opportunity for them to really gain some experience and expertise. Of course, I've seen extremely experienced expert staff leading mid-level programs and everything in between. The most important element, I would say, is really be thoughtful and intentional about how each group is incentivized so that you don't have turf wars over your donors. I've got a great question from John. How do you know how to separate work by board versus work by staff to cultivate mid-level donors? That is a great question. And so it sounds like you've got, your organization's in a stage where you've got the board helping out with some fundraising work, perhaps with cultivating donors, and they're playing a role in that. So my advice is train, and this is a topic I'm really passionate about. I actually have on rachelmuir.com, I have a cultivation guide to help you get your board members fundraising. My advice is have, just like you would with incentivizing mid-level donor manager and a major gift manager have really clear expectations of what the role is that staff play and what the role that the board members play. And if you've got board member, when we're involving our board members in fundraising, we want to give our board members a manageable number of donors to cultivate. We don't want to overwhelm them. We want to give them just the right number that they can give those donors the care and feeding that's realistic that they can actually do. And we want to support them in being able to do it successfully and do it well, and give them whatever training that they need and check in with them frequently and bring them opportunities to give those donors a more of a behind the scenes concierge level experience with the organization, whether it's coming to an event to meet other donors, meeting leadership, getting access to leadership. Those are really good opportunities. So I would say have really clear boundaries between what the board's expectations are and what the staff's expectations are. Typically, what I like to do, and I've got a guide, 10 ways to get your board involved in fundraising. There's lots of ways that board members can support fundraising. If you're giving board members a portfolio, and you can type in and let me know more about the size of your organization or how engaged your board is in fundraising. But I start out with giving my board members roles calling donors, thanking donors, inviting donors to events. Really start them out with cultivation, and then depending on their appetite, depending on their strengths, depending on how they deepen the relationship, they could be ready at one point to make an ask. But I typically give board members, a motivated board member, around 3 donors to cultivate. I have found that's a realistic number. If you're in a campaign, if you're in a capital campaign and you've got a board member serving on a campaign, then they might be able to handle more. But that's what I've seen as a good starting place. So feel free to type in more if you've got some more questions or want some more details on that, John. Of course, you're going to need some operational support, your database, so you're able to analyze where these owners are coming from, what's determining that that they should be in a mid-level portfolio, acknowledgments that they're giving from your organization, and finally, the donors themselves, right? So I'm going to show you guys some examples of some mid-level programs, and so that you can kind of get a sense of other organizations, the size. So we've got lots of some human rights organizations here. We've got some wildlife organizations, some nature, some environmental organizations represented here. So what you're seeing, the first number underneath the name of the organization is what dollar amount they consider to be a mid-level gift. It is up to you to define what a mid-level gift is. It's obviously more than an annual fund gift because it's an indication that these owners can do more, but it isn't quite a major gift yet. So this just gives you a sense, for excuse me, for National Audubon Society and Defenders of Wildlife, it's smaller. It's up to $100 up to just under $1,000. And then for some organizations like ACLU and Wilderness, their mid-level program goes all the way up to just under $10,000. So this is just a sample. These are from my friends at Sea Change Strategies, and this is their website. They've got some really great resources. You can see right here. I love Aaliyah. I love Mark. They've written some great ebooks on mid-level donors, and this is one great one: How to Treat Mid-Level Donors Like Major Donors Without Breaking the Bank. There's a lot of really great stewardship ideas in here, so I wanted to share that with you. That's seachangestrategies.com. And that's a little bit more, this is one of my favorite resources that they have, The Missing Middle. And this is a really great book, ebook. It's an ebook you can download for free. And it gives you a really good insight into the opportunities of mid-level donors, and it gives you some profiles of mid-level programs. So I like to give people an idea of mid-level programs, and just so you can kind of get a sense of where they are, what other people are doing, how they define it. Now you can also see the size of these programs here. So the biggest one is the National Audubon, ACLU and National Audubon have the biggest programs. They've got just over 25,000 people in their programs, and then Wilderness Society, a smaller program, and then the last number is what they're bringing in with their mid-level program. So this is a great opportunity. You know, you can just think about it. In essence, a mid-level program is taking donors who have potential and capacity to do more from your annual fund, learning more about them, and giving them more care and feeding to nurture them and engage them more and challenge them to make larger gifts to your organization. It's a great pipeline for major gifts. It's also a great pipeline for planned gifts as well. So there's really you can't go wrong in looking at starting a mid-level program. So I'm going to talk with you guys a little bit more about what inspired a mid-level gift. So this is an example of an environmental organization that wanted to really understand what was inspiring their donors to make mid-level gifts. And the three key takeaways here is access, impact, and community. Their donors wanted access. They wanted access to thought leaders. They wanted access to insider perks. They wanted access to behind the scenes. They wanted access to other donors. These are all things. They wanted access to leadership. These are all things that are of value and significant to donors. You know, in my background doing a STEM organization encouraging girls in math, science, engineering, and technology, I had donors who wanted to network with other donors. They wanted to meet other donors from high-tech companies. They wanted to learn about what was new in the industry. They wanted to give their families and their daughters opportunities to be exposed to thought leaders and experts and real trailblazers and women kind of taking charge and leading the way in this field. These were all things that they wanted, and these are likely things that your donors want as well. I was talking the other day with a political organization that was seeing really they were starting out a mid-level program, and they were already planning access to leadership, access to stakeholders, access to thought leaders, and private access through memos and town halls and webinars that they could make happen for those donors in their file. And this is a way to really give them a behind the scenes, more intimate experience than they were getting. These are things that our donors want. They want to make a difference. They want to feel appreciated. They want to feel like they're in the know. Access to leadership is huge. We see this across generations, access to leadership being extremely important. And this is one thing that you can think about as a defining element of your mid-level program. So just as important as where your mid-level program starts is where your mid-level program ends. And you know, one thing that I would encourage you to think about is what is your donor's lifetime value? What are the most, everything really starts with looking at your data. Where are you getting your donors? Where did you get the most valuable donors in your file? And you know, I'm actually doing a webinar tomorrow on acquisition, and that's the one thing I would tell people about acquisition. Before you go out and go launch an acquisition campaign to go get yourself new donors, acquisition's expensive. Where did you get the best donors that you have? How can you replicate those efforts or go out and find more of those donors? So think about your donors' lifetime value. Think about that. That's how much your donor is giving to you over their lifetime, subtracting out what your expenses were for acquisition, and think about looking at that to determine the starting gift amount for your mid-level program, because all donors are equal, but all donors are not equal in terms of revenue sources. And I don't want you to go out and get a bunch of donors in your mid-level program who aren't profitable and who end up costing you more because they become lapsed and didn't stick with your organization. So think strategically about your data and think strategically about what is the lifetime value of your donor, and that can be a starting point for how you want to determine a gift amount for your program. And know that donors will always be coming in and donors will always be coming out. Some level of attrition is normal. And you need to be thinking about when and where that happens. When do donors transfer out what is it length of time that they've been lapsed? What happens if they become lapsed? Where do they go from then? And when do they go out of your file? Like it isn't cost effective to have them in there forever. So just as much as you want to be thinking on the front end about the gates that get the donors in, you want to be thinking about the back end and where you are letting the donors out and blessing and releasing them. John asked a really great question. He asked, are you aware of any specific research from Boys and Girls Clubs on what the average mid-level donor wants? I am not. That's a really great question. That's a really great question. I mean, I can tell you what every donor wants is to feel appreciated and to know that their gift made a difference. The one thing I can tell you that every single donor from Boys and Girls Club, from ACLU, from Operation Smile to Girl Start, every donor wants to know that that they were appreciated and that their gift made a difference. And I think that's a really good question. I'm going to talk a little bit later about surveys, and I think I love discovery, and I love asking donors thoughtful, meaningful questions on what inspired their gift, what motivates their giving, what was the best gift they ever gave, how they like to be invited to make a gift. And I think asking your donors what it is they want. I've got a lot of questions I'm going to be showing you guys later on in this presentation on surveying your donors and what questions to ask. And I specifically have a lot of questions on donor satisfaction, and that is included. So stay tuned, John, because I think you're going to find those survey questions really helpful. So these are some business rules that you might use to move your donors into a mid-level portfolio, or conversely, to move your donors out of a mid-level portfolio. It could be the time on the file, cumulative giving, the level of engagement, the referral, like were they referred to you from a board member, were they referred to you from another donor. Those are pretty big markers if they were referred to you by another donor or potentially by a board member with some organizations, not consistently with every organization, but sometimes with some organizations, and of course a single gift amount. So those are just some things for you to think about in terms of what business rules do you want to create to determine who would be in a mid-level portfolio. So I mentioned this earlier. You could kind of think, we talked about that perfect isosceles triangle. People are always or we can think of it as like, a mountain, right? We can think of it as like Mount Everest. People are climbing up Mount Everest and they're climbing back down Mount Everest. And there's always change. We want to grow our donors. We'd like to acquire a donor and move them up and, just get them to become a lifetime donor and get them to make a planned gift. But it isn't always this clean, steady climb to the top. We could have donors that become lapsed, and if we're lucky, we're able to re-engage them, and maybe we're able to get them to do a monthly gift, and then maybe we can bring them up to do a planned gift. But there's always growth and there's always churn in the process. So I'm going to talk with you guys a little bit about finding your gems, finding your hidden gems, and we're going to talk about who to target, and I'm also going to talk with you guys a little bit about surveying your donors. And again, I want to invite you, please type in a question at any time. We're going to talk about all these gems in more details, and please don't hesitate to type in a question. I know it's as helpful for me as it is for your peers as well. I'm sure everyone's like, yeah, it would be great. We should have some specific research, and I bet everyone on the call is curious what John finds out when he does do a survey on what his owners wants, and if there's similarities and consistencies for you across the donors that you're serving. So you might be targeting your donors at or below a certain threshold. You might be targeting lapsed donors for your program. You might be targeting donors who are right now in a portfolio with a major gift officer, and it's time to move those donors down. They're not responding, or maybe your major gift officer has so many donors that they don't have time to give those mid-level donors the love and attention. You may have some recommendations from board, I mentioned. You may have some recommendations for staff. So those are some ideas about who you might target for a mid-level program. One thing that I want to share, and this is really important, is information sharing is not the same as building a relationship. We are building a relationship here. This is the pursuit of intimacy. So this isn't just about like spewing information at people. I have the gift and the honor and the pleasure of doing custom training and doing a lot of webinars and getting to speak at fundraising conferences. And it won't surprise you that I get added to a lot of lists that I didn't sign up for, and I get a lot of information sharing directed at me without any kind of pursuit around what are my interests, what are my passions, what do I care about. And when it comes to a mid-level program, this is what separates it from the pack. This is what makes it different than your annual fund, is there is this level of this pursuit of intimacy. You're driving this to give people more care and feeding, more love and attention, and you're finding out more about them, and you're personalizing your information to them so that you're giving them exactly what it is they care about, and you're talking to them about the one program that they care about and not the 10 other programs that they don't care about. Personalization is huge. Abilla just came out recently with their donor loyalty study, and what they found is that 71% of donors feel more engaged when they get content that's personalized. And this is significant across the board for your donors, but this is the only way, and I mean the only way, that we'll ever have a chance at crafting a mid-level program and moving someone up to be a mid-level donor is giving them, it's the excuse, right? It's that personalization that is the impetus and the inspiration for them having a deeper relationship with us. It's that feeling of being known by us. And I don't know if you watch the show Breaking Bad, but content isn't just king, it's money. It's real money. And this is some data from a Billa study. What they found out, this is huge. This is, in their study, people would stop donating if the content was vague, about programs they didn't care about, dull or boring, didn't have the right information about them. So this is really, really significant on, we've got an obligation to deliver content that is specific, that is interesting, and that's accurate to our donors if we want them to be able to respond. Our donors give not for our reasons. As excited as we are about the meaningful work that we're doing, our donors are actually giving for their reasons. And the responsibility is on us to figure out what those reasons are and be able to direct consistently appeals and opportunities that speak to their interest. So I'm going to share some tips and tools that you guys can start using right now to help you with really being able to better understand your donors and bring them better, more personal opportunities to, as you think about starting a mid-level program, to give them that care and that feeding and that nurturing from you. So these are some tools that you can put to use right now, and I'm going to go through and kind of spotlight some of those tools and what that looks like. Analyzing your data, right? Analyzing your data is huge. I mean, I mentioned earlier, like, you want to be looking at all of these elements so that you can find out who are the most valuable donors that you want to be targeting, and what are the triggers for how your program is going to be structured. What's the gift range? Is it cumulative? Is it a single gift? Is it time on file? Is it a wealth overlay that you do? Is it the way they're giving? Is it restricted or unrestricted? You want to really be analyzing your data. Your data is the diplomat. We like to say at Pursuant, and your data is really what is going to determine a lot of this for you. Surveying your donors. I'm going to go through and show you some examples of online surveys that you can do with your donors, and I'm even going to show you some examples of offline surveys, which is kind of like the idea of qualifying your donors. I've got lots of examples that I'm going to show with you that really range every budget size, from free, also that's kind of free as kittens because free is work, right? To stuff that you could actually invest in and have as tools. Personalization is key, and I'm going to show you guys some really good tips to help you with personalization. Planning the donor journey, really having thoughtful, intentional stewardship with your donors. video, immersive video. I'm going to show you some examples of just getting your foot in the door with your donors using video email, but I've also got a link and I put it in the chat, and it's also going to be in your email, a link to a video of a really immersive video that can actually be used. I'm going to show you what this looks like, a video that can actually be used to help you qualify and build a mid-level portfolio and help donors really essentially raise their hands to having a deeper relationship with you. And also donor cultivation events. Donor cultivation events are a great opportunity to give you that face-to-face with donors. Could be a good face-to-face opportunity that comes right before an ask. An ask could be made there. But donor cultivation events are a good opportunity to create some intimacy with your donors that really sets them aside. I like to remind people, when it comes to donor cultivation events, the invitation is the cultivation. Even if you have a great event and your donors don't come, the invitation is the cultivation. And even if they don't come, I like to remind people, what a great opportunity for you to talk to them about all the amazing things they missed, and really wearing that post-event glow. You can make the event sound even more magical, just getting to describe it to them. My motto is all about asking questions of donors. So my first tip here is to survey donors on what they care about. And I mentioned this earlier, but this is so that you can talk to donors about the programs that they care about and not the programs they don't. And survey questions are a great opportunity to do that. So down here at the bottom, I have my Facebook page, but when you look at this survey, this survey reminds me of Facebook. This survey reminds me of all the Facebook style, like BuzzFeed quizzes that I get, like what 80s band am I? And it could have a picture of Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran, could have a picture of The Cure, the Psychedelic Furs. Maybe it's like, what John Hughes movie am I? What 80s John Hughes movie am I? I'm totally dating myself as a Gen Xer right now. But we've all, I don't have to ask, I'm sure every one of you is on Facebook. We've all seen these quizzes, and that's what you're going for with an online quiz. It needs to be easy to read. It needs to be easy to do. These are great images. These are images, think about images that reinforce your mission. These are all great images that would reinforce your mission. Survey your donors on what they care about so that you're talking to them about the programs that they care about and not about the things that they don't care about. We saw earlier from the study from Abilla just how key personalization is, and it's surveys that allow you to be able to successfully deliver on that level of personalization. So here's some tips on surveying. And the first tip is it needs to be short and it needs to be simple. This is when you're thinking about doing an online survey to your whole group, and get ready, because I'm going to survey you guys in a second and find out more about just how often you guys are doing surveying. And if you've got any surveying questions, feel free to type them in. But it's short and it's simple. The subject line is everything. You didn't see the subject line in that survey example that I just showed you guys. Subject line is everything. If you don't have a great subject line, you won't have someone take your survey, right? They're not going to open it. They're just absolutely not going to open it. So subject line is everything. And I'm actually going to show you one of my favorite tools right now that I love to use when I'm writing emails. I like to use this tool right here. It's called subjectline.com, and this is a free tool that you can use this right now. I love to give people free tools you can put to use immediately. You can walk away from spending this time with me today and have a lot of great things ready to put to use in your back pocket. This is great for your email newsletter, for any subject lines you're going to be sending your donor. This is free. You just type in your subject line right here, and it gives you a score. It tells you it's going to deduct points if it's not mobile optimized, if it's too many characters. It's going to deduct points if it has free in the title. It's going to give you a lot of insight. So it's free. You enter in your subject line, you click on evaluate, and it will give you a score. for your subjectline.com. I love that tool. That's a really great tool. So even though I didn't show you the subject line in that survey, subject line is everything. If you don't have a great subject line that motivates a good open rate, you're not going to get a meaningful data on your constituents in your survey. Sixth grade reading level, it needs to be simple, it needs to be short. I'm a busy working mom, I've got kids, I worked all day, I don't want homework, right? I want it to be simple to look at, simple to read, simple to do. There is a psychological phenomenon to this. This is actually behavioral economics. It's the efficiency of how we make decisions, and we make a lot of decisions emotionally. And if I perceive your survey as being simple and easy to read, I'll think that it's going to be easy for me to do. And then the last tip that I have for you guys on doing a survey is never ask anything that you already know about your donors. Like, don't ask your donors in a survey how much they gave. You already know that. It's in your CRM. You don't need to ask your donors how much they gave. You've already got that information. So those are just 4 tips for surveying. I'm a big fan of surveying. You know, you don't have to read your donors' mind. You can ask them what they care about. So I'm going to show you guys an example of 5 things that I would invite you to survey right now with your donors. So the first thing that I'm going to invite you to survey with your donors is their communication preferences. And I want you to ask a donor that's been on your file for a while, at least 6 to 9 months, because if you ask a brand new donor if they want to get your monthly newsletter, chances are they're going to say no. So you need to prove the value of your communications. But doing donor surveys early on is good. It's really good. I would just hold the communication preferences question off until a little bit later. But you know, do they like personal phone calls? Do they like email updates? Do they like getting mail from you? Who do they most want to serve? Who do they most want to have an impact? What particular populations do they care the most about? You know, who is the beneficiary and what beneficiaries do they care about? What inspired them to make a gift? Why did they join their list? What inspired that first gift? What do they most want to support? What programs? I know you guys are doing so many robust and innovative programs. You want to know which ones your donors care about the most. What do they most want to support? And their satisfaction levels. How satisfied are they with the level of service they're getting from you? This is what's going to give you the most insight to make changes and to make improvement and to build their loyalty over time. So I've got a quiz for you guys. I've got another poll that Heather's going to load up for me. I want to know from you guys how often you survey your donors. So she's going to load up this poll. It's open now. Tell me if you've never surveyed your donors. Maybe you tried it once. Maybe you do it every year. Or maybe you're really robust and you're actually doing it more than once a year. So let me know, how often do you survey your donors? This is interesting. I've still got people voting. I'm going to give you guys a couple more seconds to vote. The vast majority of you guys, this is a low-hanging fruit. I'm so glad you joined me for this webinar. Most of you guys have never done a donor survey. So this is a great low-hanging fruit. They are inexpensive, they're affordable. One thing I'm going to tell you guys, a couple of you guys are still voting. One thing I'm going to tell you guys, okay, here we go. We got 70% of you guys have never done it, and 26% of you have tried it once, and 4% of you guys are rocking and rolling and actually doing it more than once a year. So that is great. So, I'm excited to hear that. This is low-hanging fruit. I'm going to be, you guys saw a example of an online survey. I'm going to show you some more old school kinds of surveying instruments as well. But I want to talk with you guys about some donor satisfaction questions. You can always survey your donors on their satisfaction. You can survey them in an online poll. You can survey them in person. You can survey them in a donor thought circle. This is really valuable information. Never, and let me just say, never be afraid of a donor who, if you ask them these questions, is upset with you, because that is your chance. Congratulations. If you survey your donor around their satisfaction and you got some negative feedback, you just potentially brought back into the fold one of the most valuable donors you will ever get, because this is something the for-profit industry knows really well. And this is a topic Adrian Sargent, who's going to be one of your presenters later on in your series, talks about. And the for-profit world knows this as the service recovery paradox. But donors who had customers who had a frustrating experience with you or had a complaint show more loyalty if it's addressed. And it doesn't have to be resolved, but addressed, if it's acknowledged. Those donors show more loyalty than donors who never had a problem in the first place. So don't be afraid if you get a donor who's unsatisfied, who's unhappy. Congratulations, because you just saved yourself a lot of resources and a lot of money as an organization, because you were able to get in there and intervene before that donor became lapsed without you ever knowing it or why they become lapsed, right? So these are some great questions. Were you thanked appropriately? Did you get your thank you in a timely manner? Did we talk about the impact of your gift? Would you recommend us to family or friends? How might we make you more satisfied? Is there anything else you want us to know? Always end any survey with just an open-ended blank box that they can fill out themselves, where they can share anything that they want you to know, because you may not ask all the questions that they wanted to answer. So there's some great sample donor satisfaction questions that you could answer. Never have a survey where donors are required to answer all of these. It could be a few of them, but never do a survey where they're required to answer all of them in order to submit their results. Don't ever do that on any survey, actually. That's my advice, because people may only want to answer one or two, and them answering one or two could be far more helpful than punishing them by not taking your full survey. So be thoughtful. Visual images are great, especially images that reinforce and get tied back in with your organization. I mentioned this, Adrian Sargent, who's going to be one of your presenters later on in this series. Satisfaction is the #1 driver of donor loyalty, and the reason why these surveys are such low-hanging fruit and great opportunity for you is that no one ever measures it. I have yet to meet a major gift officer or any fundraiser who is actually measured on donor satisfaction, but donor satisfaction is the #1 driver of donor loyalty. So it's worth asking your donors some questions about their satisfaction levels, because you can come in and you can address it. So I mentioned to you, I shared the online survey, and I mentioned to you that I was going to share some tools for you guys that you could use even if you had no budget. So now that's this part of this of today's session, is I'm going to talk with you guys a little bit about tools that you could do if you had no budget, and I'm also going to show some tools that you could do if you had a budget. Again, I want to invite you guys, type in any questions that you've got. I'm happy to answer those now. We've also got time at the end. So I'm going to talk with you guys a little bit about donor prioritization. So this would be something I would recommend to you. Folks who are looking at a mid-level portfolio, building a mid-level portfolio, even building a major gift portfolio, who don't have resources to do an online survey, don't have resources to use video. You could do a letter. Like, this is like a letter that goes out before you make a phone call or send an email, right? Before the phone call, before the email, there's an actual physical letter. And I'm going to show you an example of one of the letters. The idea here is that you're just rolling out the red carpet to your donors, and you're saying in this letter, every donor has a story. I want to hear yours. I'm new here. My name's John. I'm new here at Boys and Girls Club, and I want to visit with you, and I want to talk with you and just tell you how your gifts are making a difference. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your feedback. Now, you send out the letter, the calls, the emails. I'm not going to lie to you. It takes a lot. Could easily take like 7 to 10 tries before you get a response. Some people will never respond to you. You can send them like a bless and release letter that just says, hey, I've reached out to you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm always here with any thoughts, ideas, questions. Here's my cell number. Here's my business card. If you'd like to contact me, I'd love to hear more about what inspired your gift and how we can help you be even more satisfied as a part of our family here at Boys and Girls Club. And if they don't respond to that, it is, I'm always here, I've called you, I've sent you a survey, I haven't heard back from you. Again, here's my card. If you ever have any thoughts or ideas, I'd be the first to hear them. Thank you so much for your partnership and your generous support. So this is kind of like prioritizing that portfolio, using a little bit more of kind of an old school, if you don't have a budget to use any digital tools. This is hitting the pavement, right? This is really just hitting the ground running. And this might be an example of the letter. Now again, the letter goes out before the phone calls, it goes out before the emails. You're trying to stand out here. You're trying to tee up a response to your email and a response to your phone call, and sending a letter is the way that you're going to do that. So this is just like, thank you. You start off with a thanks. Every donor at Boys and Girls Club has a story. I want to know yours. I want to tell you, I want to find out what you need from us, and I want to tell you how you're making a difference. I'm going to be calling on you. I'm going to be emailing you. I'd love to talk with you, right? So pretty short and sweet. The idea is that you would be using this kind of a strategy for folks that might be new to your file, for folks that you don't know them very well. Maybe you're new to the organization, donors that you think you could upgrade into a mid-level or even a major gift portfolio, or donors that you might have in a major gift portfolio who aren't being responsive, and you're thinking about moving them down to a mid-level portfolio. So that's an idea of who might be an appropriate target for something like that. Depending on the size of your file, that could be a lot of donors. Am I right? Some of you on the call today have a lot of donors, and that might be just complete overkill. You don't have time in the day to make that many phone calls. And I would say you've got to pace yourself. You can only send out so many letters as you have time to follow up from. So you can't just send out 1,000 letters and realistically be able to make 1,000 phone calls the next week. So you've got to be thoughtful and take it one step at a time. Now, video is a really great tool, and I've got a link in here, and I put this in the chat. This is also going to go out to you as a link with the handouts. I wish that I could show this video, but GoToWebinar is not voice over IP, so the pixelation would not be good if I were to play this video now. But I set up this as a bit.ly link so that it's more memorable. This is a great video from our friends at Operation Smile, and I encourage you to watch this video. It's short. Get your Kleenex ready. It's going to make you cry, but this is a unique way that you could use video to build a mid-level or even a major gift portfolio with your organization. This is a heartfelt, this video is 3 minutes and 23 seconds. So it's a little bit on the long side. It is emotional, it's evocative, it's probably, it might bring you to tears. It does me, but it's a beautiful story shows you really immersive experience. You get to see what it's like, see the stories behind these beautiful children whose lives are being saved with the life-saving surgeries that are done by Operation Smile. And it's a warm welcome from a key donor for the organization, as well as the founder and CEO of the organization, who says, we want to hear your thoughts, we want to hear your feedback, we want to do so respectfully. If you'd like us to call you back, if you'd like to hear from us, please just click on the link below. So this is sent out using a personalized URL, and this is kind of an example of a flow chart, if you will, of what that could look like for you. So it's got like your whole pool in this slide that you're seeing, your pool of all your prospects. They're getting a printed invitation, they're getting an email invitation. It's a personalized URL, or PURL, which is allowing you to track, did they open it, did they watch it, did they click and say, yes, have somebody call me. And if they did, then of course they're going to get a phone call from a gift officer who can visit with them. If they didn't, they might still respond very warmly to more care and feeding from your organization. They might be willing to take a visit in a few months. So the idea is that you can use video, and you've got to produce the video, and you've got to use a personalized URL to get that video out if you want to track and mine the digital engagement of the video. But video is a very affordable tool. It's really, you can think of it like a sales funnel, where you're sending it out to your whole list or the list of prospects, and then a certain number of people will open it, a certain number will click through. a certain number will raise their hand and say, yes, I want you to have someone call me. And the idea is that you, as a fundraiser, are spending more time on your revenue generating activities like a face-to-face visit and less time on, cold calling, if you will, where you're just calling and asking for appointments with your donors. Now, I promised more tools to share with you guys. And again, I've got time at the end here for questions. So don't be shy, type them in. Donor cultivation events are great opportunities for you as well with a mid-level portfolio. It can really be one of the markers and one of the benefits of a mid-level portfolio is those behind-the-scenes events. And I mentioned Girl Start and the organization that I started, Girl Start. At Girl Start, when we started, we did a lot of donor cultivation events that were essentially open houses. It was, in the early days, it was enough to just say, hey, we taught the girls to design websites, come see their websites. Well, as time went on and as our donors became more sophisticated and their expectations went up, and we really had to think strategically about what could be done. Girl Start really thought about what could be done that would inspire donors, that would be something that they would want to do, that would drive them to come and spend some quality time, and flying drones was the answer. I mean, who doesn't want to go fly a drone? And this was fun and it was engaging. And Girl Start even had like companies come out with many members from their team. They got a real taste of the organization. They got personal stories. They got testimonials. Again, I love donor cultivation events because, like I said earlier, there's a quote from my friend Mark Rovner, who I mentioned from Sea Change Strategies. The invitation is the cultivation. If they don't come, that's still great. Now you get to talk about all the fun that they missed. So congratulations. It's not, even if they don't come, that's still an opportunity, and they're going to feel that you care about them, and they're going to feel that you reached out to them, even if they don't come. So I'm a big fan of donor cultivation events, and I'm a big fan of being really thoughtful and really intentional and really producing the entire experience. That's one of the topics that I talk about a lot in webinars and in custom trainings and in VIP days, is how to do a donor cultivation event from start to finish. And I don't think anyone has as many rich opportunities as Boys and Girls Club for donor cultivation events. I mean, those real opportunities for donors to connect with the mission and connect with the families and connect with the kids that you're serving, and for you to tell those stories even if those kids can't be there. There's nothing more powerful, and in everything that you do, in every I would challenge you in your gala and everything that you're doing to make those program testimonials front and center, and think about creative ways. What are fun things that you're doing with the kids where your adults can come be a kid again? I mean, I'm basically a grown-up kid, and nothing's more fun, right? And give them that chance to really roll up their sleeves and be a kid again. It's really unique and special. So I mentioned lots of tools to stand out, and this is a neat tool that I really like. It's video email, and it's a neat tool that can help you stand out, to cultivate your portfolio, and to get your foot in the door when you're trying to get visits with your mid-level donors. It can also be used just for nurturing your mid-level donors. So down here at the bottom, I've got a bit.do/care share. This is a food bank in Colorado Springs. They've given me permission to show them off. If you've got something great, please share. I'd love to show you off too. I love how they're using this tool. I put this tool, I typed into the chat, and I'll show you a link to this tool really quickly right now. This is a video email tool called bombbomb.com, and this tool allows you to use the webcam on your computer, or your iPhone has an app for iPhone to shoot video live. You can do it live, you can record it in an email. So it's kind of like that, the idea is like it's like a voicemail, but instead of being a voicemail, it's a video email. It's like an email, but it's a video of you. Short and sweet, right? You really want to be short and sweet here with using this tool. This should be no more than 30 seconds. Definitely can't go to a minute. So you want to be short and sweet. But this is a great way for you to stand out with your donors. I don't work for this company. I don't get paid when people sign up, but I love this tool. I use this tool myself. You're actually on this slide on the left, you're actually seeing an example of a video email that I sent someone, and I actually spoke with him today, which was great. Video email helped me, but I use this. You know, when I'm doing custom training, I'm selling myself, right? And people need to see me and see me talk and see my face and feel like, yeah, I really like her message. I like Rachel. I like what she's saying. This could be helpful to have her come speak to our group, to have her come do a training for our organization, to, you know, hire her to work with our board. This is an opportunity. So I encourage you to think about these as tools. You can watch this video down here, bit.do/Karen Share. These are some low-hanging fruit of some tips to help you stand out. And what's nice about the video email is that when the person watches it, just kind of like with a personalized URL, when they watch it, you can set it up so that you're notified when they watch it. So you know if you're, when do you want to call your donor? Right after they read your email, right? You know if you're resonating with them, you know if they've watched it a few times, that if they're interested. So it's a nice way to really kind of know more about what impact you're having and if they're responding to you. So we've still got some time for, I want to invite you guys to type in your questions. This is another great tool that I love. This is online stationery. This is digital stationery. So this is Felt app, feltapp.com. This is only on the iPad and only on the iPhone. This is not on the Android. But this is a really neat tool, and I'll show you their website as well. But first, let me tell you a little bit about these. These are my twins right here. This is a Father's Day card. I've got some stationery here for myself down here at the bottom. And basically what this is digital stationery. It has the look and feel. They do the printing. You upload a photo or use their photos, or you can make your own photos like you can see in my example, and they will print. You use an actual stylus or your finger to actually write a message on your iPhone's or iPad screen, and they print it out and they mail it for you, and it comes in a physical envelope with a physical stamp on it. I just sent one yesterday to my boss for Happy Bosses Day. I love this tool. It'll save addresses. It has a little eraser tool where so it's really efficient. Here's another shot of the Felt app directly from their website. This is a really neat tool. I think it adds a wow factor for you to accomplish really innovative stewardship. Like I said, I love to give people lots of tips and lots of tools when I have an opportunity to train them, and this is one of my favorite new tools that I found. It'll automatically download pictures from your iPad or from your iPhone, from your camera roll, or you can use their own cards. They've got, Mother's Day covered. There's even a Mother-in-Law Day, which some of the most hilarious cards you're going to see. But they've got a lot of personality. This is super affordable. I think it is literally $5 a month to send up to 3 cards, and $15 if you want to make some personalized stationery, like the example that you saw that I used of the personalized stationery. So that's a neat tool. When it comes to stewardship, I recommend that you create some business rules. Of course, you want some business rules for your mid-level donor program of what touches are your mid-level donors going to get, what's the communication strategy. You want to be thoughtful and intentional about actually planning the donor journey with those mid-level donors. So I want to encourage you to think about, as you think about starting a mid-level program, you think about what markers kick off someone being in it and what markers kick off people exiting it. Think about what are the touches, what is the donor journey, and what are they going to get. I actually just recently redid this because this stewardship plan is designed based on gift amount, and I actually just recently redesigned it based on length of time on file, whether it was a first gift, a second gift, or they've given 3 or more gifts, because I firmly believe that we are holding back on the love and attention and affection that we give our donors until they give really large gift amounts. And our donors don't know what kind of love and affection is waiting for them at higher gift amounts. So I would challenge you to think about this not in terms of the single gift amount, but you can think about it in terms of what kind of love and attention can I shower on a new donor so that I can upgrade that donor faster and get them to make larger gifts sooner. So we have some time here for questions, and I want to encourage you guys to type stuff in. I'm excited. I see something from Heather that I can't wait to go back and watch later. She shared with me something fantastic, a video from her campaign, so I can't wait to go and watch it. But I've got the floor open for questions, so I want to encourage you guys to type in anything that you want to know about as it relates to fundraising. I'm here and I'm happy to answer it. I want to mention while you guys are typing in your question, I've got this fantastic webinar series that's coming up in January. If you're interested in signing up, I've also got a class that's coming up in Dallas, an all-day class on fundraising. It's Wednesday, November 2nd in Dallas. I just do a couple of these a year, but this is a great opportunity if you're interested in really upping your fundraising game and spending a day with your peers. It's a really small group. I think right now it's like 10 people. So it's a very small, intimate group with lots of one-on-one instruction. So I've still got time for you guys to type in questions, and I want to show you guys a little bit more about I mentioned this earlier. I mentioned some of the resources here. I actually specifically mentioned a guide for getting your board members fundraising, which is here on this website, rachelmuir.com. I've also got a discovery guide with some great discovery questions to ask donors up there as well. And again, I do a lot of free webinars, so feel free, if you sign up there, then I'll send you an invitation when they come up. Lori asked a really great question. She asked, the video idea is wonderful, but how do you get something like this across to the donors that don't do social media? So the video is actually not sent through social media. The video is actually sent through email. Both of the videos, and the Operation Smile video is actually you can send. We've had a lot of success sending donors an invitation to that through direct mail. And we've even done some campaigns where it was sent, it was like just a link in a direct mail. It was even sent as a video in the mail, but yeah, this is sent through email, not through social media. So those are both sent through email, and with a personalized URL, you have the opportunity to really track your results, and see, did they open it, did they watch it, did they watch all of it? And that's really valuable insight to have on your donors. It lets you, if they opened it and watched it 10 times, you've got a pretty good indication that they're pretty excited about it and that they really enjoyed it. If they never opened it ever, then they may not be interested, and you might not have the right email address even. So I mean, it's one of the reasons why I like using this tool for me doing training for folks. If I send a video email and I don't have an email address, if they never opened it, something might be happening with their inbox, something might be happening with their email server. So again, that's those are both sent via email, and those are both the nice thing about the video too, if you invest in actually producing a video, is that and if you want to talk about that more or have more examples, please feel free to contact me. But the nice thing about the video is you've also got that video to use in your other elements. I mean, that video for Operation Smile, I can't even begin to tell you the emotional impact of the stories that ended up on the cutting room floor. I mean, so many powerful stories that didn't even make it into that video, and all of that can be footage that you show at your galas, at your events, and you can use that footage, you can reuse that footage in many other meaningful ways to support your storytelling within your organization. So we still have some time. Heather said she had a problem with, this is the website if you are interested. Um, So if you guys, I still have a few more, I've got some time here left for questions, and I want to encourage you guys to really type in any questions that you've got about fundraising, any questions you've got about some of the tools that I shared today, some of the examples that you saw. Um, these are all just I'm here as a resource for you. So if you've got some questions that you would like to ask, this is an awesome time. I'm just going to pull up another great example for you guys. I've got, this is a great website, sophie.org, and this is, I mentioned a donor satisfaction survey, and there's a lot of, you can really Google anything on Sophie. It's SOFII, and this is a site that was created by Ken Burnett. This is open to the public, but it's got a lot of really great examples, a lot of really great fundraising examples that you can see on Sophie, and it's a good tool for folks. So I encourage you, if you haven't ever checked that out, that's a neat tool that you can check out. So I still have time if you guys want to type in some questions. I've got people that are still here on the webinar, and this is your awesome one-on-one time for Q&A. I've got some questions coming in from John, but I want to encourage everybody. Please feel free if you've got some questions. John asked, what survey providers do you recommend for easy integration into CRM and databases? That is a excellent question. Um, so there are lots of survey providers, and this is a really technical question. I would recommend that you use visual images in your survey. And that survey that you saw, the example that I shared with you was a fluid survey. You can do surveys in SurveyMonkey. I've had people tell me that they have had success doing visual surveys in SurveyMonkey and integrating it into their CRM. So it's definitely possible. Text I would encourage everyone to really think about investing in a really good survey, and using visual images and making it and investing in your subject line as much as you invest in the rest of your survey, because I think you're going to see a far higher response rate than if you just went with a text survey. If I talk with organizations a lot, and I had an organization that I talked to, and they did a text survey, and it was you had to fill out the whole thing in order to get a response, and I was like, oh no, because a lot of donors weren't going to stick around and fill out the entire form. So surveys are great. Hopefully I can give you, if you want to email me, John, I can give you some more specific examples around surveys. John mentioned he's doing a free version of SurveyMonkey, and good for you. John's working on building a culture of data collection at the board level. That's fantastic. I use a paid version of SurveyMonkey. I haven't experimented with using visual surveys on it, but I use a paid version, and it does allow a lot of flexibility, and I want to say it's like $14 a month. So it certainly isn't something that is too exorbitant. So we've still got a few questions. If you guys, time for questions. If you guys want to type in and answer anything. Again, this is my website. You can find out more information here. I'd love to see you in class if spending a day working on your fundraising skills is in the cards for you. If you've got any questions about what you saw today, if you've got any questions and wants to learn more about surveys, about mid-level programs, you've got my email address right there. I'd be happy to assist you in any way. Or if you've just got a question that you wrap up and you pack up your computer after today's webinar and you think, oh, wait a minute, I wanted to ask her that. I just thought of something in the middle of the night. Please feel free to shoot me an email. I'm happy to help you any way that I can. It has been a joy to be with you. Again, if you've got any questions, please let me know. And I really appreciate the opportunity to spend today with you. You've got a great lineup of other speakers that are going to be in your series, and I hope to see you guys all at your next national convention that's going to be in Dallas next year. So thank you so much for joining me, and I appreciate the time that you took to spend with me today. I also appreciate your time filling out the survey on what you thought about today's webinar. I really appreciate the time to learn more about your thoughts and your feedback. So thank you guys all so much for your questions. Thank you so much for your participation, and good luck, and let me know if I can help and be of assistance to you.